It's Midday Live on TV3 at Adesawe in Accra. My name is Efua Tieku. The headlines this afternoon. Retired state prosecutor in Who Watches the Watchman video responds to allegations. CEO of Ghana Investment Promotion Center underscores the need for the country's land tenure system to be updated to promote large-scale mechanized farming. And on the foreign front, left-wing candidate Andrés Manuel López Obrador wins Mexico's presidential election. Details of these and more in the next 1 hour. Do stay with us now in a very fair story. President Akufo-Addo says he had no choice but to act on the recommendations of the committee set up by the Chief Justice to remove the EC chairperson, Charlotte Osei, and her 2 deputies. Speaking to the Ghanaian community in Nouakchott, Mauritania, on the sidelines of the 31st AU Summit, the president noted the law is no respecter of persons.
More than 500 Ghanaians reside in Mauritania's capital, Nouakchott. The last time a Ghanaian president visited Mauritania was in 1989, when Flight Lieutenant Rawlings visited that country. Ghanaians here are mostly in dry fish and cow skin production. Spokesperson Charles Osafo recounted the difficulties in renewing their passports since there is no Ghana mission. President Akufo-Addo assured them of the establishment of an honorary consul in Mauritania. A minute silence was observed in remembrance of former Vice President Kwesi Arthur, who passed on Friday morning.
May soul and those of all the faithful departed rest and abide in the bosom of the Almighty.
On the removal of the Electoral Commission chairperson and her 2 deputies, President Akufo-Addo said the action was based on recommendations by a committee set up by the Chief Justice.
The law states that I accept any recommendations made by the committee, reason why I had to take that decision.
He added his action was purely constitutional and called for support for their replacement. The president encouraged Ghanaians living abroad to register for the national identification card when it gets to their turn.
We have begun the registration process in Ghana. After, it will be your turn.
I mean, at the end of the day, the AU will also have a card for all of us Africans. So it will make the movement between our countries much easier.
Today on What Do You Think? The public speak on the president's defense of sacking the 3 EC bosses.
The president, Nana Addo, has spoken for the first time about the removal of the EC boss, Madam Charlotte Osei, and her 2 deputies from office. The president explained he had no choice in the matter as he had to uphold the dictates of the constitution. Today on What Do You Think? I find out what Ghanaians think about his explanation.
So if this is what the committee is saying, that is all. He has no option. You have to abide by it and let the law takes its course.
Na 2 deputies
I think at least they should have seen to it and consider her in some way. They shouldn't have sacked her just like that.
If he thinks the woman has not lived to expectation, and the constitutional requirements demands that the woman leaves office, he does that.
The president has the right to go by the constitution. That's the right thing. then it means there is no favoritism to whoever is at any position. Anyone who does any wrong is liable to any form of punishment. And I think the president is right in taking that decision.
See, I say political album, and this before say, I do any, and before said do any, and there's a conya what let's say, or mining munipa. So we am Pamana, say a man in now. Near man one is so we next time, you best sackle, none or better.
The 31st Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union is underway in Mauritania's capital, Nouakchott. For the next 2 days, the African leaders will dedicate their energies in marshalling strategies to deal with corruption to promote effective continental advancement.
This year's Ordinary Session of the Union is on the theme, Winning the Fight Against Corruption. The opening ceremony featured a number of messages, including a statement from the AU chairperson, Paul Kagame of Rwanda. He expressed sympathy to countries that have been affected by terrorist activities recently, including Ethiopia, Mali, and Zimbabwe. He condemned the attacks and called for a concerted effort to tackle terrorism on the continent.
We condemn these violent attacks and convey condolences for the lives that have been lost. We are heartened by the strides made by the leadership of Eritrea and Ethiopia toward normalization of relations. You have the African Union's unwavering support.
President Akufo-Addo, who is joining his colleagues, will also be participating in high-level panel discussions about how to improve women participation in politics.
The retired state prosecutor, Ellen Kwaukume, who is in the Asin Central MP Kennedy Ejepon's Who Watches the Watchman video, has denied receiving a bribe of $5,000 to botch the case, the Republic versus Mohammed Hafiz Abdallah, Mubarak Seidu and Prince Kingston Kwame. The 67-year-old retired state prosecutor in the statement indicated that it was erroneous that Mr. Ejepon claimed in various media interviews that she was deceased. She explained she retired in 2011 and handed the case over to another prosecutor 2 years before the case was dismissed, and it was therefore not true that she was not going to court, reason for which the case was dismissed. She is demanding a retraction and an apology from the legislator. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has urged Ghanaians to shun political and religious differences and patronize nation building. He made the observation at an event to mark this year's Senior Citizens Day in Accra.
Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia recounted the measurable contributions of senior citizens and listed some government's programs geared towards improving their welfare, including provision of accommodation and the free pass policy. He encouraged them to avoid being divisive, but support government pursue its programs.
On this important day in our history, I wish to urge all Ghanaians to put their political and ethnic and other religious differences aside and help build the country and make it a force to reckon with on the African continent. We should be seen to be indivisible, even in our differences.
He again spoke about other alternative initiatives to create jobs for the team in youth.
We have brought in the Nation Builders Corps, where we are going to hire 100,000 graduates this year. They will start work by the grace of God next month. We are moving to bring in major reforms in the area of one village, one dam, one district, one factory, to build the sort of Ghana that you have been dreaming about and you have been working hard for all your lives. And we ask you to continue to support the President and this government to make these dreams possible.
Available figures from the Gender Ministry indicate that there are 1.6 million elderly people in the country, out of which more than 502,000 have been enrolled on the National Health Insurance Scheme, and more than 304,000 benefiting from the LEAP program. Minister of Gender and Social Protection, Otiko Jaba, underscored the need to increase their grant.
The ministry is also in the process of ensuring that we start a new initiative where Ghana will have a day recreational center for the aged. We could go as elderly people to interact with each other, play draft, check how to use the internet, and socialize. I would be bringing this proposal to Cabinet indeed, so that we can even have one district, one senior citizens center.
The Gender Ministry is to present before Cabinet a draft bill to improve on the pension and gratuities of senior citizens and retirees.
The Institute for Democratic Governance, IDEG Ghana, has recommended that separate entity should be created to regulate political parties, while the current Electoral Commission concentrates on running of elections in the country. A research fellow at IDEG and a senior researcher or lecturer at the University of Ghana, Professor Joseph Ayi, explained that the Electoral Commission is overwhelmed with a lot of functions which are making it inefficient.
Speaking on the sidelines of an IDEG national forum under the theme Civil Society Organizations' Role in Transforming Local Governance Reform in Ghana, Professor Joseph Achu Aye referred to the Electoral Commission's failure to regulate political parties in the country. He attributed this failure to the lack of implementation of regulations, which have resulted from the fact that the EC is weighed down with a lot of functions.
The EC is supposed to regulate the behavior of the political parties in terms of even demanding that they present audited accounts. The EC is unable to do that because it is saddled with a lot of responsibilities. So I would propose that the function of regulating political parties must be hived off from the EC and given to another institution which will be more effective, so that the EC can concentrate on the elections themselves, demarcation of electoral boundaries, etc., etc.
On the elections of municipal, metropolitan and district chief executives, a senior research fellow with the Institute for Democratic Governance, Dr. Kwesi Jonah, said the process will help deepen the country's democracy. He added that it will promote greater transparency, accountability and improve the quality of MMDCEs.
Accountability will improve. At the moment, for most MMDCEs, all you have to do is to please the president, because he appointed you and he can also fire you. But if the people in the district elect you, you better listen to them, to what they are saying, because if you are not accountable to the people living in your district, that is your end. You are not going again.
Both Professor Aye and Dr. Jonah indicated that the approach to appointing 30% of the assembly members should be reviewed to bring in more experts and vulnerable groups.
The argument about the 30% is that they should bring those who are appointed should bring in their expertise. But what we are now seeing is that the 30% is only packed by the party.
Rather, we are using the 30% system to reward party members who contributed to the victory in the campaign. So it is not working. What we are suggesting is that abolish the 30% system. Set it aside for women and other disadvantaged groups.
A bridge linking Afrancho and several communities in the Ifija-Kwabre district of the Ashanti region is on the verge of collapse following years of neglect. Residents claim they have been sidelined by government considering the deplorable state of their road.
Afrancho to several adjoining communities in the district keeps deteriorating anytime it rains, affecting smooth vehicular movement. Worse still is the poor state in which this bridge is. Motorists and other road users contend being terrified as the bridge is submerged after every downpour.
This road was done 5 years ago, but it has turned to be a rough road now, and the difficulty is too much. This mountain that you see there is difficult to climb when it rains, and a lot of accidents also occur.
Commercial drivers lament their business is not profitable due to constant breakdown of their vehicles.
The flood waters usually enter our car engines, resulting in the breakdown of our vehicles.
Residents want the government to, as a matter of urgency, reshape the road and repair the bridge.
When we are done with the roads, then we will tackle other developmental projects.
DCE for Ifija Kwabre, Kwesi Kakari Achimfo, said the assembly is making efforts to fix the road.
Major roads are, in fact, not easy for the assembly. For reshaping and doing other things, the assembly can take it up. That of Himan and Afranchu road, we'll be able to do it. We've brought the regional engineer. They've come to see all this. They've sent it to Accra.
And more residents are complaining of social amenities as residents of Edumbanso in the Bombo District of the Western Region have given government 21 days to get their roads tarred. Irate youth led by 6 traditional leaders from adjoining communities took to the streets to protest against their pothole-riddled roads. A report by Eric Ejay.
According to the residents, the 9-kilometer road becomes unmotorable, particularly when it rains. The problem, they contend, is compounded by trucks which cart goods to and from the Benso oil palm plantation. A 7 weeks pregnant woman, Mamiekia, laments she could not go for a medical review last week because of the nature of the road after a downpour.
Pregnant women find it difficult to go to the hospital when it rains. A car had blocked the road, so I couldn't go. We suffer a lot whenever there is a downpour.
They did not understand why their road was not included in the reconstruction of the 15-kilometer Mpoho Road project, of which the president cut short on June 10. According to them, previous governments always considered their roads under Phase 2, which never materialized. For more than 5 hours on Tuesday, June 26, the aggrieved residents blocked the road leading into and out of the town, leaving motorists stranded.
Government upon government always put our roads under Phase 2, which has now become part of the deceptive agenda of past governments. The road ministry and government representative in the district did not brief the president well on the bad roads in the district and how it is affecting health and economic activities in the area.
The chief of Edumbanso, Nana Addo II, said traditional leaders in the area support the action by the youth to demand answers to the continuous neglect.
On MTN Video Report today, our citizen journalist Teria Samson calls on government to complete the maternal unit block at the Tafo Government Hospital.
The neglect of this huge edifice is a cause to worry, thereby creating no space for midwives to work at Tafo Government Hospital because of the neglect of the child and maternal unit block, which started somewhere in 2004. Government upon government has not paid attention to the completion of this huge edifice. I am Teria Samson reporting for TV3 Video Report.
Thank you very much. You can also send your video report via our WhatsApp platform 05514333044. You're watching Midday Live on TV3. Do stay on. You're welcome back. Economists at Standard Bank are predicting a further reduction in the policy rate. They predict the central bank might cut the current policy rate by 300 basis points. In May, the policy rate dropped to 17%, down 100 basis points from an initial 18%.
The policy rate is the rate at which the Bank of Ghana lends to commercial banks. The Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, of the Central Bank has reduced the policy rate 6 times in the last 19 months. The policy rate stood at 25.5% in January 2017. It was dropped to 23.5% in March 2017, 22.5% in May 2017, 21% in September 2017, 20% in January 2018, 18% in March 2018, and 17% in May 2018. The central bank has made these cuts with the hope that commercial banks will translate the reduction into lower interest rates. The response from commercial banks has, however, been slow. A 300 basis points reduction projected by the May edition of the African Markets Revealed report by Standard Bank means the policy rate will drop to 14%. According to the report by Standard Bank, the lowering of the policy rate is anticipated because of strong disinflation that is currently underway, with headline inflation dropping to 9.6% year-on-year in April from 10.4% year-on-year in March, the report said. It also forecast that inflation trajectory will remain on the downside. When this happens, it is anticipated that businesses will be able to access loans at relatively lower rates. The African Markets Revealed report is a monthly report issued by the Standard Bank Group that focuses on the economic and financial outlook of African countries.
The CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, has underscored the need for the country's land tenure system to be updated to enable investors to engage in large-scale mechanized farming. He was speaking at the second quarter of CEO's breakfast meeting in Accra.
Agriculture employs over half the country's labor force and has long played a pivotal role in Ghana's economy, as its key agriculture product, cocoa, is one of the top 3 export commodities. However, agriculture in Ghana is predominantly on a smallholder basis. About 90% of farm holdings are less than 2 hectares in size. The second quarter CEO breakfast meeting identified land tenure system in the country as one of the major hindrances to large mechanized farming in the country.
There are quite a number of them coming and asking what opportunities are there. The biggest stumbling block is land tenure and availability of land and access to land for farming. It's not even for investors outside, even for investors in Ghana. Land is an issue, and so we need to work hard to solve that.
The CEO of GIPC explained there are opportunities available in the agri sector for investors to take advantage of.
Opportunities are in fisheries. The opportunities are in cattle ranching and animal husbandry. I think our per capita consumption of protein relative to OECD and other parts in the world is pretty low. And that's because of availability.
Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Sagre Bambangi, said government is working to ensure that challenges in the sector are reduced. Asked through the Planting for Food and Jobs program is providing improved seeds for farmers.
Some of them stay away from the use of the improved seed because of the high prices. That is why government is subsidizing the improved seed, so that as farmers get used to it and then they build their capacity, it can get to a point that they will be able to be on their own.
The Ghana Investment Promotion Center seeks to promote, facilitate, and encourage investments.
The Bank of Ghana has started the implementation of its new Capital Requirements Directive. The Capital Requirements Directive sets the requirements by which banks will calculate their level of capital as spelled out under the Banks and Specialized Deposit-Taking Institutions Act. The Bank of Ghana says its implementation of the new Capital Requirements Directive starts July 1, 2018. However, banks will be expected to start full compliance by January 1, 2019. The directive comes 6 months to the deadline for meeting the new 400 million cedi minimum capital for banks. The Capital Requirements Directive holds the board of directors of banks accountable for their bank's ability to meet the minimum requirements set. The boards of banks are expected to work to establish a capital management framework and to provide oversight of capital for the bank consistent with the board-approved strategy and risk appetite generally. In all these, the Bank of Ghana is resolute with its December 2018 deadline. The Council of State has pledged support for the National Petroleum Authority as it seeks to help in implementing the cylinder recirculation module. Now, the chairman of the council and Omanhene of Asante Joabeng, Nana Addo II, expressed confidence that the module, when fully executed, will reduce the number of gas explosions in the country.
The executives of the National Petroleum Authority, led by the CEO, Hassan Tampoli, called on the Council of State to seek support as it prepares to fully roll out the cylinder recirculation module. According to the MPA, so far, 18 applications have been received, and there's a growing interest to ensure that the module is implemented.
The industry is fairly well represented on the Council, and we have no doubt at all that the interaction that we have, or we are going to have with you, would be very well informed. And you also have the benefit of hearing from the key players who are also members of the council and use whatever advice that we have for you.
CEO of the MPA, Hassan Tampoli, is meanwhile reiterating the need to have all stakeholders support the move.
We've put together an implementation committee. We've also put together subcommittees. Subcommittees have virtually completed the first phase of their work, and we think it's appropriate for us to start the consultation process. We start with the Council of State here this morning, and like I said, there are about 18 companies so far that have applied for LPG bottling company license.
The cylinder recirculation model will stop LPG outlets from filling empty gas cylinders as part of measures to stop gas explosions. LPG bottling plants outside commercial centers will fill the cylinders for sale at the retail outlets.
You're watching Midday Live on TV3. Do stay tuned. Hello again. Now, several children around Go Atanda community in the Bombo District of the Upper East region will not be able to go to school if district authorities do not step in to provide infrastructure for the kids. Now, a volunteer has started school that has closed 10 years ago, but pupils study under very trying conditions. Bright's Nana Addo reports over 500 pupils are still out of the school.
Attention, Erica, give us the tea. God bless our homeland, Ghana. God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong.
Most of the kids, especially the class 4 children, they said they will not go to any place. They were in the house, they were dropouts, so I encourage them to start the whole thing. So if you are telling them to move to another place, they say they will not go, because if they are to move to, it is far, they will not go to school.
Just a few have started school, but many more at home. It is a depressed school. The Go Atanda Basic School in the Bombo District has so many challenges. The school was started in 1965, but collapsed. Children could not trek 1 hour to the next community. And so, when the school collapsed, these kids drop out.
More of the children cannot walk out to the other school. Because of that, I have one of 2 boys, Pascal with 1 boy, but that one has passed away. And they are planned that they will start it. And I want to buy blackboard for them. I used to buy chalk for them, and they're using it voluntarily. And people are laughing, say that we are just making it campaign. And I said, not campaign.
In 1992, Pascal Ayamga, a volunteer, picked up the school. Many kids who were home were brought to school.
Initially, we started with about 50, but now they are numbering over 200.
The District Assembly and Education Directorate took up the challenge. This is the Go Atanda Primary School. You can hear the voices around me. Now, there's no structure. This structure is a local church, and that is what it is used as a primary school. 4 voices, 4 teachers are teaching. Let me show you KG1. This is KG1. You can find about roughly 26 of them. Their teacher is handling them. Now, of course, the way they are learning even portrays a difficult situation. Right behind them is class 3 or P3, sitting very close to KG1. Whatever this teacher is teaching certainly is getting to the other side of the class. That is not the end of the difficulty. Now, turn your attention to the other corner of the room. This is P2, primary 2, sitting directly opposite P3. And the teacher is also teaching. You can imagine what these kids are absorbing. That doesn't end it. If you go right behind P2, then you can find P1, primary 1, with a teacher also teaching in this environment. Certainly a very, very serious environment. Teaching and learning in a difficult situation, children trying hard to absorb something, teachers trying to teach, but in a difficult situation. The Ghana Education Service has posted 5 teachers here. There are 3 volunteers, 2 of them from the Youth Employment Agency and 1 volunteer. Over 1,000 children are located around the area. How to get them to acquire education is a difficult task. Kids here are deprived. Neglect is so high. They learn under trees. In fact, it is a difficult situation for pupils and teachers who teach and learn under very trying and difficult conditions. This is a level of deprivation. This is a level of neglect. Now the kids are on break, and this is what they use to play. They simply have no equipment. In fact, they don't even have a structure to sit in. So talk about equipment to play, it is not there. And so this is how they do it. They hang on these trees and play for recreation. This is how deprived the Go Atanda Primary School is. The community is eager to have its kids educated, and so have made all effort to support the school. Teaching under this condition is a heavy burden. These kids will write the same basic education examination with colleagues in better endowed and resourced schools.
This time it's a rainy season. If you're here and the rain comes, you have to run away. You don't have any place to go. This block is only the block for us. So we always run in there with the children.
The District Assembly says providing buildings for schools is a challenge.
The money isn't there, and we don't know when the money will come. So what we ought to do is to work within our local resources. That is why we need to improve upon our IGF. We need to task the people. We need to call on our citizens, those Bongo people who are outside, to come to our aid. Like I mentioned the other time, Professor Kabza and co are all working so hard to bring development to the community. So I'm using this platform once again to appeal to Bongo people who live elsewhere to come to our aid, because we need to pay back. This is where we all started. This is where all of us started our basic education.
The Education Directorate is also challenged. The wish is to provide a structure for Go Atanda Primary, but it is also in a difficult situation.
Go Atanda case is actually a case that we picked up with one school at Akulio. Atanda is the challenge. It's a priority. Unfortunately, I'm handing over.
These kids will have to go to school under trees until some funding is secured to put up a structure for them. Bright Nanafo, TV3.
Let's now head over to the Upper West region, where work on maternity complex for Yalla in the Yalla District of the Upper West region has started some 8 months ago after mission visited the community and district authorities. The community of Yalla is participating heavily in the putting up of the facility. Bright Nanafo again reports.
It was joy during the groundbreaking ceremony. Women had to lie in the same room as men. Some had to sleep on the floor due to inadequate space. Some refused to attend clinic because they were shy.
They are always mixed up with other male patients who are being accommodated in some small room which have been created through their own initiative. So it's always become difficult, and as a result of that, most of the pregnant women feel shy to come to the health center when they are in labor for the fear that they will be put together with other male patients.
The nearest facility was far away. District health authorities and the community accepted the challenge following mission's interaction with the community. A new facility had to be constructed.
The labor ward was too limited, too small, and it needed expansion. And in fact, the community embraced it, and they said, instead of expanding it, we want to put up a new structure so that other things could be done within the same block. And we have seen that already they've hit the ground running, and it will only need some other more support from everywhere in order that this project can go on.
Immediately, work started with the acquisition of a proposed plan.
The first site plan was drawn and presented to us, but it was actually substandard. So we asked the person to go back and then do another work. So he presented the second one, but it was also beyond the standard. I mean, it was beyond what the community can afford. So we asked him to go back and then make the two. He actually promised that by next week, he would present the final plan for the work to continue.
Community participation is key. Collection of stones and all other labor works is being provided by the community. Over 4,000 women will be beneficiaries. The facility caters for 3 communities, and each community is contributing 500 cedis each. After completion, traveling long distances to access maternity care will be over.
We are appealing even to the government, if only he can come to our aid so that our lives will be safe in this community.
Women who refused to attend clinics during pregnancy will reduce. The Assembly is heavily supporting the community.
The initiative that they took is something that we are encouraging all communities. During my visits to the communities, I made it clear to all the communities that I visited that any community that will initiate any project to improve upon the living standards of the community, then the Assembly will be ready to also partner with them, take part of the course and complete it for them.
The Yalla Health Center serves over 4,000 people. The facility is well staffed but lacks space to make operations smooth. A maternity wing, when completed, will improve healthcare and protect pregnant women from avoidable deaths. The District Assembly is poised to improve healthcare for the over 72,000 population of Wa East in the Upper West region. Bright Nanafo, TV3.
You're welcome back. Germany's interior minister plans to hold last-ditch talks with Chancellor Angela Merkel after threatening to quit in protest at her migration policy. Horst Seehoff heads Bavaria's Christian Social Union, a key party in Mrs. Merkel's coalition. He argues that police should turn away migrants at the Bavarian border if they have sought asylum elsewhere, but Mrs. Merkel is sticking to an EU-wide deal. The Merkel-Seehoff crisis talks are set for 1700 in Berlin. A compromise looks unlikely. The BBC is saying in Berlin report. The risk for Mrs. Merkel is that Mr. Seehofer ends the CSU's alliance with her Christian Democrats, leaving her without a parliamentary majority. Now, left-wing candidate Andrés Manuel López Obrador has claimed victory in Mexico's presidential election, saying profound change is coming. The ex-Mexico City mayor, known by his initials, is projected to win about 53%. His rivals have conceded in a crushing defeat for the main parties. Mr. López Obrador's key pledge has been to tackle the evil of corruption. He has also been highly critical of President Donald Trump, and ties with the U.S. will now be closely watched. Relations with Washington have been hugely strained, with Mr. Trump strongly criticizing Mexico over trade and migration. Mr. Trump has sent a tweet of congratulations. And up next is entertainment. Ghanaian actor Majid Michel has resumed acting despite his calling to become a pastor. He said being a pastor does not take away anything from he being in the movie industry. He spoke on New Day.
Well, I've had so many people asking me, okay, so Majid, now we hear you're a pastor, now we hear blah, 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 this is that. So what kind of movies are you going to be shooting now? So how are your films going to be? How are you going to choose them? Blah, blah, blah. You know, so many things like that. Like now, you know, you can't do some roles. You can't play some scenes. So how are you going to do it? This is one of the movies you're asking about. This is one of the films you're asking for. So if you want to see the kind of stories we are making now, Sunset Avenue is one of them.
I see.
Yeah.
You don't mean the call has taken you away from certain roles? Is that what you mean?
It has a little bit.
It has?
Yes.
Okay. But I thought that was only acting, so...
Well, the impact here is now we are looking at the entirety of the story, how, you know, the morale in the end. I mean, even if you're playing a Jesus movie, there has to be a Judas. You know, and I love to play Judas.
Interesting in that. So Sunset at Noon is that kind of story you want to tell and be seen to be in it.
Exactly. There's this mindset with the Christians where, I mean, immediately they think they are born again or they've accepted Jesus Christ, then suddenly, instantly, you have to change.
Totally.
Yeah, they think, you know, it's automatic. And it's not. Change is a conscious effort. It's intentional. You choose to.
Being born again doesn't change you
automatically, no.
You have to make the effort to
change.
You
consciously. You know, so some people think, well, I'm born again, you know, but I fail and I made a mistake and I sinned. It gets to a point, you sin a lot after being born again, and you ask yourself, am I really saved? Well, you are saved, but choosing to do stuff is a conscious effort. The Holy Spirit doesn't choose for you.
You do it yourself.
Yes.
Miss Golden Stool, a beauty pageant to promote and highlight the culture and traditions of the Ashanti region, has been launched. The concept was influenced by the need for the youth to appreciate the full worth of their culture and not to be fixated on foreign culture.
Conceived by two former contestants of TV3's Ghana's Most Beautiful, Eka 2011 GMB winner and Bedu 2016 GMB finalist.
Whilst we believe in the concept of globalization, we believe that those that have competitive advantage in the global world are those that are able to capitalize on their unique and distinct strengths. At Miss Golden Stool, we are focused on two strategic goals: impacting the society and promoting our culture and traditions to the world.
Co-founder of the initiative and former GMB finalist Bedu explained the ultimate winner of the change-driven pageant will serve as development ambassadors for the region.
It's not going to be just any pageants that we wake up one day, we want to crown somebody, so we give a crown and maybe a car and then a cash to that person. But we want to ensure that whilst we are promoting our rich culture and traditions, we are also grooming ladies who will take up roles in the society. So this year is laser focused on sanitation. So maybe in the subsequent years we may have different focus and all that. So once that is done, then they are going to be ambassadors to help and develop their community.
2016 GMB Queen Yaba endorsed the initiative.
So if this is a pageant that would focus on the culture of Asante region, which is the beacon of cultures when it comes to Ghana, I think it's a very good cause, and then it would empower women, it would teach our young ones about our culture, and that is just perfect. Thumbs up to them. I pray that they'll get all the support they need.
The maiden Miss Golden Stool will be crowned on December 18, 2018.
And that's it for Midday Live on TV3. But before we go, let's look at our top stories again. Retired state prosecutor in Who Watches the Watchman video responds to allegations. CEO of Ghana Investment Promotion Center underscores the need for the country's land tenure system to be updated to promote large-scale mechanized farming. And on the foreign front, left-wing candidate Andrés Manuel López Obrador wins Mexico's presidential elections.